This podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you in cooperation with the SJ Network. If you're a person who'd like to appear on a podcast, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Season 10 premiere of Too Many Podcasts. Today's guest is Brian B. of the Beeline Web Show.
That's uncanny. You sound just like Lord Mr. Bruce, the real-life voiceover for this podcast.
No, I don't think so. You don't sound as talented as he is.
Wait a minute, where can we possibly find someone who sounds completely untalented and unprepared for this podcast?
Very simple. The Sherpa just happens to be in the next studio. Problem solved.
Attention, rebels of the Sherpalution. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. We would like to give you a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial simply by heading to www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles of audiobooks and podcasts, including this one, to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And now, the one and only Mr. Bruce will lead you into the Sherpa Chalet. As a reminder, to enjoy the best possible experience in the Sherpa Chalet, we advise you to bring items stolen from nicer places.
Welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts. Now, podcasting from the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, rebels of the Sherpalution, and welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts and so much more. Jim, the podcast Sherpa, coming to you from the lovely little Sherpa Chalet right here on top of Mount Podcastia. Guess what? We're in Season 10. Ha! And they said it wouldn't last past, well, one episode. But we proved them wrong, didn't we, rebels? Yes, we did. And I'm glad you guys are here because you get to hear my conversation with my guest today.
Who's our guest today, Sherpa?
His name is Brian B. He is the host and creator of the Beeline Web Show, and it's something that you can catch on the YouTube thing, and you can see his smiling face there, and we had a really interesting conversation about his show, got to know him a little bit, and we talked about editing. I know that's a thrilling subject for you, but we had a lot of fun talking about it, and just so much more. He's a really interesting guy to get to know, and you should check out his podcast. Sorry, we can't call it a podcast. We have to call it a web show. He's moving on from podcasts, folks. He's leaving me in the dust, folks. What can I tell you? It's all right. But we wish him all the best. And until then, have a listen to my conversation with Brian B., the creator and host of The Beeline. Hello there, rebels of the Sherpalution. We are here at the Beeline room of the Sherpa Chalet. And my guest today is the creator and star of The Beeline Show. You can see him on YouTube. You can see his pretty face. You'll never see mine. No, I'm just hiding in the dark there. but Brian is here from The Beeline. Brian, how's it going?
It's going amazing. What's going on, people? What's going on? It's Brian B. And I'm here chilling with my man, Jim, the podcast Sherpa. I'd have fun with your name on my show. Sherpa. What's good, Sherpa? I do goofy things like that a lot. I don't know why. It's just like I like to take things and just bring it to a different level so you're shocked every time you hear it. And it's just like it hits you really quick. Sherpa. What's happening? But I'm good, man.
It's usually just you and your show, right?
Yeah. Usually it's I host it by myself, but a lot of times I have guests. I do a lot of interviews and stuff like that. I actually do have kind of a co-host. I have a small team that comes on every now and then. My girlfriend, she comes on, IT Tiff. She handles the technical side, keeping me in check. She's also my manager of my company, the Beeline Entertainment LLC. So we started the show off together, and kind of just me as like the front runner, and she was kind of like the talking person that was just coming on, just kind of bounce ideas off of. But I love it, man. I love interviewing people. I love talking about different things. So yeah, just me and my big mouth at this point.
So what got you started with this, Brian?
Oh man, listen, I've wanted to do this my whole life. Like this has been I tell everybody that I wanted to start having my own show back in the day when I was watching, like staying home from school, watching Jerry Springer and Maury and and Ricky Lake and all the old school. You know what I mean? Like listen, I love the old talk shows, and I wanted to do that, man. Also with like radio and disc jockeys and stuff like that or whatever. I wanted to be a personality. And I grew up in the music industry. My father used to manage up and coming artists and stuff like that. So I used to go to a lot of shows, a lot of different events. And I always wanted to be doing something with entertainment. So my mouth, took me back in 2010. I started like a project where I was doing like quotes. I was making my own quotes and kind of putting it on Facebook and Twitter. And then I came up with the idea. I was like, I'm going to do a show and it's just going to be online. I'm going to call it the Beeline. And 10 years went by and I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing with it at all. But then, we got stuck in the house. We got locked down and just said, hey, listen, let me get me a mic and a camera. And I started talking to it. And then bam, it just kicked off, man, 3 years ago.
It's so funny for a virus that's so despised. With podcasters, it seems to have been like the great motivator. It's like, well, I'm here. Man. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, from talking to so many different people, like, podcasting for sure, because it's something that like we were just speaking on it, like you can sit back and voice your ideas onto an audience. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people want to talk to people. Like I'm sure a lot of people were lonely. Like there was a lot of people who weren't around a lot of people anymore. So it probably opened up like a door to kind of have conversations and have different kind of venting. Even you just had to kind of get some relief. So podcasting, I can definitely see why so many people wanted to start and just kind of speak on topics. But, a lot of other people started working out. People started doing art. Like, people started a lot of different crafts because they had the time. And I think that was what, COVID, the whole, I call it COVID mania. That's what we call it on my show, or whatever, COVID mania. But it did open some doors that definitely weren't expected to be open in good ways for a lot of people, man. It made everybody slow down. Especially me. I know that for sure.
Yeah. And I guess probably what sticks out about podcasts is like with radio and TV, when you see an interview, there's always restraints on it because they can't talk to the person for an hour straight because they have commercials or radio stations have to play music, to pay the bills and all that. And at least with a podcast, it's like, I don't have a sponsor, so let's just talk for 2 hours about, about Spider-Man.
About anything. Yeah, and it does open an interesting door as well, because it's like it gives people the chance to find out what they feel is interesting. It gives like a wide variety of different people talking, different topics, different personalities, and people have the choice to cipher through and say, oh, I like that one. I want to listen to that one. I want to join that one. And, it just gives you your own platform to speak freely. And that was the whole point of my show. Mm-hmm. The Beeline, the whole principle was I wanted to be able to speak straight to the point. Like that was like the premise for it. I didn't want to be sugarcoated. I didn't want to say things and have you interpret what I'm saying. I wanted you to just get what I'm saying, because I don't want to come off and try to beat around the bush. Just understand that I'm saying something that it may be hurtful, it may be this and maybe this, but it's coming from me. It's how I feel about the situation. And in a world where it is kind of, it's hard to say things. Just think about this. Think about this, Jim. This is where we're at, right? We live in a world where you can have endless communication as much as possible. And you can speak and you can be heard at the drop of a dime at any given time. But you have to formulate it in such a way, in such a critiqued way, that if it comes out wrong, you might as well have just never said anything because it's going to backfire. It's such a crazy limbo, man. It's like, we have this freedom of speech, but it's like you still have to make sure that what you're saying isn't consequential, man, because if it is, it's going to be heard immediately by millions, and it's devastation after that. So it is kind of a double-edged sword, man, because I'm pretty sure I love, that's why I always wanted to be open. The Beeline, man, I'm telling you what I feel. It's exactly what I feel. If you don't like it, at least I was honest with you. Like, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm telling you, you might not like what I say, but I'm not trying to intentionally hurt your feelings. I'm just trying to make you understand my feelings, my thought perspective, like straight from how I'm giving it and delivering it. So
that's an interesting point. I'm wondering, and you don't have to rehash the details of this. I'm not trying to make you do that. Do you feel that in any of your shows you may have said something that might have triggered some people, or do you think that you stayed in the safe zone?
Yeah, I definitely don't stay in the safe zone. Now, with that being said, I don't ever. I'm not one of them type of people who are like trying to be judgmental. As far as just like trying to tell people how they should be or why I think they're wrong or something like that.
Right.
I'm one of those people who are like, I just don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, me personally, hey, I'm just not feeling it. It's not my thing or whatever. So I don't ever think I've ever disrespected anybody or said anything crazy, but I know I've said something that people probably don't agree with. I mean, we've had, vast discussions, me and my whole team. I think on my 10th episode or 11th, 10th or 11th episode, we had like a whole debate, and it was just around a sensitive time, COVID debate, political debate, and we were all just kind of talking. It was heated. It was pretty heated. That was probably the most heated argument we had on the thing. And these are my family, like my brother, my IT Tiff. But it did show me that exactly what I was trying to do when I started this, straight to the point. I wanted to make sure I can speak and like, hey, listen, you don't got to guess what I'm saying. I'm going to tell you what I'm saying. It's directly going forward. So I don't think I have, man. I really don't. I think that if you could listen to all my episodes and maybe you'll catch you'll find something if you're looking. But I don't think I ever really have said anything that like offended anybody or somebody can pick apart. I'm just trying to be honest, man.
Yeah, that's true. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Right? If you're looking for something, you're probably going to find it.
Yeah. Especially now, man. There's so much stuff out there now. It's so much content. If you want to be mad at something, you'll definitely be mad at it. I mean, there's people who just live for that too, and you can't argue it. People definitely live to just be disappointed, to just be aggravated or oppressed, or you want to come out and feel strongly about a topic. You want people to feel like they're on a side, and I definitely think that's a big reason why we have so much discretion and judgment and politics in areas where you really don't need it at this point. But we all got a voice, man. It's all able to be heard immediately. Whether you typing on a computer, whether you calling on a phone, whether you text messaging, we got immediate ways to deliver our point of view, and that comes with consequence, man.
Okay, now the listeners can't see this, but in conjunction with what you're saying about being able to speak your mind and just being you about it too, you get to do that, and you also know how to really present yourself as a brand too.
Yeah. I tried, man. It took some time. Like I said, man, it was one of the things I guess I should just kind of dive into what I'm doing now. The Beeline started as that. It started as the beginning of, I just wanted a place where I can talk and just kind of speak freely. I always wanted to do like a radio thing or something. Mm-hmm. But then, when I started doing the show, pretty early on, it kind of started taking immediately a different kind of route. I was starting off as kind of like a podcast where it was just pretty similar to what most people are doing. And I didn't know what my goal was. I didn't know what I was kind of going for. I just wanted to have a show. And as time progressed, I started noticing the first couple of episodes I did was real heavy on small businesses. And I was taking note mentally of people starting businesses or people starting something at that. And it kind of was speaking to me differently because I was relating, because I was doing the same thing. So early on, I was trying my best to figure out, wait a minute, is this a podcast? Is this something that I'm trying to do? Or is this going to be something else? And it definitely has turned into something else. I don't really classify as a podcast anymore. It's definitely, we call it a web show. And, if you any iCarly fans that are listening to this right now, it's crazy because I literally, listen, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've watched all those, Drake and Josh. I've watched a lot of those shows. One thing I really didn't notice was the first place, I thought I invented web show, man. I was pretty sure people said it before, but I thought I invented web show. And then I'm sitting here in the room, and iCarly was on Netflix, and I had my daughter, and we were sitting in there. We were throwing on something for us to watch, and she said web show. And when I tell you right now, honestly, no lie, that was the first time I ever heard anybody say it. And I'm like, damn, I thought it was, I knew somebody said it, but I didn't know that public. And I was like, that's what I've been calling my show for the longest, the Beeline Web Show. That's the actual show that I host on Tuesdays, and then I have the Beeline Entertainment Show. That's what I host on Thursdays, and two separate shows. The web show started it all. But I also have a brand of the Beeline Entertainment LLC. That's the company, and that's what we do in our marketing and video editing and different services for people who are actually doing similar things. And that's what we're building now. So it started off as, Sherp, like a podcast, man. It was supposed to just be me talking, but instantly I saw the change, and I was open to what it could be. And I still don't think I'm there. I still think I'm closer than what I was when I began, but I'm definitely loving the experience and the journey of turning this into something that I thought I didn't even think it would become.
Yeah, and I mean, we've just met today, so I'm going to go out on a limb here if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I think that you're very comfortable in your skin. So, and in just doing a podcast, that's probably wasn't enough for you. And I'm not saying that to be condescending or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like probably deep down you said, well, this is a start, but there's something more to this though. Especially with what you want to do and what you want to talk about. That it's got to be next level, or else you're going to just get bored just doing an audio thing.
Listen, man, I'm not going to lie. But possibly, definitely so. I also think that one of the biggest things that happened when I was doing the web show was, like I said, I grew up in the music industry, and I was a lot of talent. I used to rap. I used to write for people. And I never, became famous from it, but I definitely did it for a long time. So it's like when I started doing the show, one of the biggest things I started getting when I just had the Beeline Web Show I was doing on Tuesday nights. Actually, we were actually doing it for 2 nights, and then it got too much, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then I cut back and just did one night on Tuesday night. And a lot of musical talent I was meeting. Immediately, it was a lot of different talent. I loved it, but one of the reasons why I started the show was because I wanted to have a show to speak on, not to introduce, talent. I wanted to have a show to speak on, but talent was coming a lot. So I decided to open up the Beeline Entertainment Show, and that was where I wanted to have talent come on and show off. That's what I call it. They come on and they show off, and they sing a little bit, they rap or they cook, whatever their talent is, and they do it on the show and they show off, and I love it, man. So branching off the shows gave me the ability to kind of cipher through my guests, and I'll have like actors and celebrities and different people on the entertainment show, and then I'll have people that I don't even know. I actually do a segment called Talking with Strangers on my web show. And I meet somebody on Facebook, I post it, somebody will send me a message, tell me their story a little bit, and then I won't ask anything else about them. I won't even talk to them until we record. And I've met so many amazing people doing that, man. Like, literally, I've had people on from somebody who lost their kid and started a foundation from it, to somebody who was in the worst movie of all time. Like, I some really incredible people, man. It's just been crazy. Like I said, the experience of this, that I never would have thought that this is where it was going to go. It's not even stopping. It's like, it's crazy. Also, something else that happened was I had somebody on my show who my brother introduced me to from the area where I'm from, and he wound up getting me in a movie. That was another thing that kind of turned up like the gas. Where I was like, wait a minute, I need to maybe I do need to reconsider this. It was an Amazon Prime movie. But I never had that happen. Me and my show. He liked what I did on the show, and he wanted to make me a part of his movie. And it's just been really opening experiences, man. And I've loved it. I've loved it. Like I'm trying to make this my only, way of being at this point. But yeah, man, that's just pretty much where it went.
Okay, now that you've mentioned it, what's the movie that you're going to be in?
Oh, the movie is called. It actually happened already. It was called Intuit. It was called Intuit. It was like a sci-fi flick, and it was a producer named Mr. Carlos Pizarro. He's down here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was interesting. It was a fun time. You know what I mean? It was more of was more like, it wasn't like a Hollywood, super platform, but it was, it was a movie. It was a movie. It was on Amazon. You could buy it and watch it. People were like taking clips of my scenes and stuff in it, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. But that did open doors for me to be like, wow, I like this experience. Like, I would love to, be a part of something else. Like, I would love to do this again. And Jim, I don't know if you've experienced this, but like, isn't it interesting when you're doing something, especially like this, and it's like you start to notice, like similar to what I'm saying now, but you start to notice like, wow, things that I thought were really hard, I actually see how they actually can be easy now. Like, I tell people this all the time, man. Like, especially people who are talking about starting their own business. When you hear things like that, that's such like an epic kind of statement. Like, I want my own business. You think of the big buildings and the windows and the suit and ties and stuff like that. But what realistically, when you start to really think about like the small plans and then you start doing them, and then it's just like, as you're doing them, you see the other like avenues and routes that are opening for you.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, like, the experience that you gain, because it's like, why haven't I done this sooner? Like, I felt like that a lot recently. I wish I'd have started this earlier.
When I first started doing this show, I made one major decision, and that is there are no dumb questions. So at least when you have someone on there, ask what's on your mind, because what if you're like, it's horrible to speak with somebody that you probably be fascinated to speak with, and then like you end the interview saying, why didn't I just ask him this? He was talking about this and I'm not clear on it.
Yeah, man.
It's almost like a blown opportunity. And I think if they know that you're genuinely curious, it doesn't really come across as a stupid question.
Yeah. Sometimes you do. I mean, I still deal with that. I got to get out of my own way. Like, you don't want to, judge yourself or be too hard on yourself, especially when you're doing something like this, because it is important to be open. Mm-hmm. It is important to like, see your flaws, see your faults, and understand what you're doing. Like you just said, like, don't miss out on an opportunity because you feel like it's a bad situation. Put yourself out there. Like, you got a show where you're speaking to millions of people, maybe potentially, you don't know who's listening to your stuff.
Right.
And then, at the end of the day, if you feel like, oh, well, I don't want to do that or whatever, you're not going to be harming anybody but yourself at the end of the day. Because I'm one of the type of people where I'd rather jump and take the risk than, wish that I didn't or knew how it ended up or whatever. So,
right.
I like taking the risk, man.
Did you have like a favorite guest so far in the time that you've been doing your show?
Oh, man.
I'm sure you probably had a couple of standouts.
Yeah, I definitely have. I mean, all the guest stats came on my show. One thing I can definitely say, I've done maybe 120 shows at this point. I would say that all the guests that have come on, I haven't had any that were really that were bad. Mm-hmm. I have had a couple that I was kind of like, when I got done, I was like, oh, okay. That's a number. That's a number, I guess, to go up. But I don't really, when it comes to my favorite, man, it sucks like having to pick this out. One thing I would say, all right, I'm going to give you a couple because I can't kind of break it down.
That's fine.
I have my cousin Lenny Harold. He is a singer. He's a singer. He was out back in the day with a group called Blackstreet, and they're a very popular R&B group back in the day. Right? No Diggity, exactly. Yeah. So I was at he's come on my show twice, and every time he comes on, we just have really, really, really good conversations, man. Like he came on not too long ago, and he had a new album and freaking phenomenal music, man. I love talking to them, but it's always good conversation. It's really good. It's natural and it's fluid. Like I love it. He also has a partner, A Natural, and A Natural is actually, if I'm not sure when this is going to air, but he just recently did another episode with me that's coming out soon. And gotta be honest, like it's one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. Like it was, once again, it's just natural conversation and such an amazing talent, man. This guy is incredible. He wrote for my cousin Lenny Harold. They're just phenomenal, man. He has a new album out. And it's just those type of conversations where I have my cousin, we call him Pepe Gonzalez. That's just his nickname, but his real name is Jarrell. It's my real cousin. And he's the owner of this thing called Beard Gang Takeover, and it's this big club on Instagram, and there's a whole bunch of guys, just big dudes with beards and stuff like that or whatever. But it's super popular, so it's like you wouldn't think of something like that, but it's just something so simple can be just like, oh damn, like I want to be a part of that too, like But he comes on and we just talk goofiness and just laugh and just joke, and those are my favorite episodes that I do, man. I'm not gonna lie, I love them to death. Like,
Yeah, I think with those, you don't have to think. It's just you kind of go on autopilot, and that like
exactly.
we have that kind of back and forth with a guest and stuff like that, and
Oh man,
and it's like wherever it's gonna go.
Yep, it's
the ride.
it's always funny, man. I mean, there's times where we'll just be talking, and it's like you said, it's so natural because we can talk on the phone. We'll call each other on the phone and just talk, and we'll have 3-hour, 4-hour conversations, being stupid, being dumb, telling each other to shut up, and no, you're stupid. No, get fired from your job. We don't care. Saying anything, the worst things you can say. And it's the greatest thing ever, man. And we get to do that on the show. And it's entertaining, and it's like, it's funny. And I love those episodes. I also love the episodes where, like, the people come on and it's like the talking with strangers. I definitely love as well, because it's always unexpected. And like, I've had some of those have been the ones where I'm like, okay, well, thanks for the story, guy. But, some of them has also been like, wow, this person is freaking incredible. Like, I can't believe like they have such an amazing story. And I say this all the time. Like, a lot of times people are trying to get like these really like, oh man, I want Beyonce on my podcast, or Britney Spears or something. But you don't realize like your next door neighbor was like, explored space, or did something incredible, or discovered a dinosaur, and like these are the stories that people have. And then it's like you start talking to these people and you're like, wow. I used to do cable installations for Comcast. And I did that for about 3 years. So I used to go inside and install cable. I hated that job, man. Listen, I hated that job. Much respect to all the cable people out there, man, because they really work. But
unplug the box, plug it back in.
Smack it. Yo, listen, there's so much that goes into that crap, man. But one time I was at a house, and from the outside, it's crazy because you would never tell that this house had an elevator in it. This house had like 7 floors. It was unbelievable, but you would never know it from looking from the outside. So when I got in the house, I was stuck at this house all damn day. And it was a Saturday. And I went in there, and this guy was getting like 14 TVs hooked up. I had no help. It was just me by myself. And I was so mad. I almost quit that day, everything. But when I started doing it, I kind of was just listening to my boss and just doing it. But this guy actually designed the stuff that went to the moon or whatever for NASA. He worked for NASA. And some of the stuff that he was telling me was like mind-blowing. Like, he was telling me about, he was showing me like documents. He had radiation burns on his face from like the different stuff they was working on. It was really crazy. He was telling me a lot of different stuff or whatever. He was like one of those people. He was older, so he was just like loose with it. So, but right there was like, where I started to realize like, wow, man, I'm in and out of different people's houses all day, and people are really interesting, man. Like, or creepy, or like, you never know who you're dealing with, but people are interesting. And I'm not gonna lie, that's one of the reasons why I kind of was like, man, listen, I want to kind of talk to people I don't know. I just want to make it clear that I'm talking to you and I don't know you. So talking with strangers things has been a lot of fun, man. It's been a lot of fun.
It's a challenge. I guess that's probably
yeah. It's like a present. Yeah, you don't know what you're opening up. Like, I make it a point to not know anybody. Like, I barely check their Facebook. Like, I'll just post the ad, and then I'll get a message on it, and somebody will say, "Hey, I would love to come on your show and talk about this or whatever." Okay, sure. And then bam, just let it happen. And then the day of, I'll send them the link and say, hey, what do you got to talk about? And then they'll tell me a little bit. Then I'll find out when everybody else is finding out. So it has been really fun. It has been a lot of fun with that.
Brian, I'm thinking we shouldn't tell the audience that all the fun that they just missed in this lapse that we edited magically together, and nobody will ever know what happened.
Hey, listen, isn't the editing beautiful thing? How do you like
our
it?
Little secret.
How do you like editing?
I'm pretty patient about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
It
I
does-
over edit, I think.
It does take some getting used to. There are certain people, like ever since I started doing that's one of the things we offer with our packages and stuff. We do editing for
Mhm.
people's shows and things like that. And you do get some really particular customers out there who are, hey, edit out every time I say or sometimes they want to edit out like a stutter or and it's like it can get definitely very, very like particular. But I actually love it, man. I actually love it. One of the things that got me into it is as you can see, the crowd can't see, but that mask up there.
Mhm.
I do a Halloween special, and I've done 3 of them so far. And this one I just did. It was one of my biggest projects that I've ever done. Probably the closest thing that I can say to like creating a movie that I've ever done. But it was a Halloween special, and I edited the hell out of it, and it came out amazing. It came out amazing, and I was so proud of it. And also, it showed me just what editing is, man. Editing, like you just said, the crowd they wouldn't even know, but you can take the simplest video and edit it and do different things with it and add this and add that or whatever and make it a motion picture, man. It's incredible the talent that goes into to editing, editing a show or a video or a picture at that.
Anyone that's ever like complimented me and they said, "Oh, you sound so smart on your show," I'm like, "That's a lot of editing." Trust me.
Like you never make mistakes, right? Yeah, I know.
Yes, everything is just flowing out of my mouth right now.
I like to kind of I definitely like to make sure there's a couple of times where I'll be talking and I'll be in the thing and I'll watch it back like, damn, I couldn't just get that idea out. Like I do have a bad habit of like I'll stutter on something for a minute.
Mhm.
But sometimes like when I'm thinking, I think really fast, man. So it's like I got 1,000 ideas happening at the same time. But I will go back and edit it, and people will be like, "Oh, wow, I never thought, I never would have known."
I've noticed that, like in some of my shows when I laugh a lot, sometimes the end of my laugh goes. So I have to kind of edit those out because I don't want people to think I'm having like a medical situation.
That's funny. That's really funny. Yeah, man. It's small things like that as like a person who does this stuff. Like, some people might not care. Like, I know there's some shows out there that's like literally like I've been on a couple and they're like, it is whatever. But they're like you just said, like I'll have this thing where I was doing it a lot on my Halloween special because when I was wearing the mask, I had mask, makeup, everything on. And I guess because I couldn't really breathe that well or whatever with it or like normal, I kept swallowing my spit like really hard. So it's like you heard it in the microphone and it was just disgusting me every time I heard it. So I had to edit it out and I was trying to like look for it when I was editing the video. It was like 20 minutes of my life just went down the drain because I'm sitting there trying to listen for me swallowing. And I'm like, damn, man.
You're right, though, that some people, they seem to take opposite sides of the coin when it comes to editing, like saying, well, they should hear it as it happens. But I'm like, if I paid like $12 to go to a movie, I don't want to see the guy with the boom mic or the guy holding up a cue card.
Yeah.
I want to see what's created there. It takes away from the magic.
That's such a good point, man. And listen, like I said, man, I'm not the one to be like judgmental and this and that or whatever, but you do have to kind of face like, reality a little bit. Like you just said, man, with doing this, there is a certain level of professionalism, depending on what you're trying to do with it.
Right.
If you're just doing it and you're just like, hey, me and my friends just kind of jump on and talk, junk or whatever every now and then, hey, that's cool. Like, that's your, but if you're doing it on a level where you're like, hey, I'm looking to be successful, I'm looking to try to make this into something. And then you get on and, you're not really doing too much. You're on there in a dirty t-shirt and whatever, unless that's your shtick or whatever. But I mean, it does matter, man. You do like you just said, like, you're not going to want to go to a movie and see the guy eating popcorn in the back or smoking a cigarette. Like you want to see something done, it looks like it was some effort put into it. I think that that's very important when it comes to this. I think it's very important to know kind of what you're doing it for. If you're just doing it just for fun, don't be upset if not as many people are paying attention to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a couple of people who are doing it and they're really trying. And but at the same time, you try to talk to them and say, well, you want to try this? Maybe you'll try this different. And they're like, no, I don't need to do all that. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like,
Right.
I don't need to do all that. Well, are you really trying then? Like, you might need to do a little bit more, if you're really trying. So it is kind of just one of those things. Like, you got to just know what you're doing it for.
Right. And it's funny because you actually made me think of something when you were just speaking. The guy who's getting together with their friends and they're just busting on each other and they're not really trying to do anything heavy. Yeah. If that comes off too polished, it almost sounds like it's contrived, like, I'll say something funny and then you say something funny.
Yeah.
You don't want like that. You want a natural rhythm.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Then that's why it's like, even that. I mean, at times, and don't get me wrong, like there's times where some people just like to watch. There's a guy on I'm a TikTok fanatic, man. It's crazy because I did a show about hating TikTok. And then I started giving it a chance. People were like, yo, what are you hating on it so much? It's like, give it a chance. And I'm in love with it. I go to sleep watching TikTok videos 4 hours before I actually go to sleep now. But there's a guy on TikTok, all right? And this is crazy. This is really crazy. And it's like I don't know if it's staged. I don't know what it is. But literally, he'll be sitting here and he'll cook food in like a really, really dirty apartment. And I mean, the refrigerator's falling apart, the roaches. I mean, it's disgusting. It's beyond disgusting. And he cooks food and he just makes like nasty meals. He splats it together and just throws it. And this guy's got like 700,000 people watching him do this or whatever a day. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can see this guy, if it is real, just gets up and says, oh, if you want to see me, he talks grungy, and people watch him. People love him. It's incredible. He didn't do anything.
Train wreck.
It's unreal. It's unreal. People will watch something bad because it's bad. It's like, so at the same time, it makes my statement of like, if you're really trying, you want to put some stuff into it. But at the same time, we do have to have a fine line of, like we just said, what we're doing it for.
Right.
If you want to be taken seriously, like nobody's going to go to this guy and try to put him into say maybe something similar to what he's doing. But 9 times out of 10, if you're trying to do something, they're not going to go for the roach infested apartment guy making food. They're going to go for somebody who's put together and trying hard, at least. Like, we can't lose sight of like, common sense and stuff. It's like, I think that's a fine line that we walk on nowadays, man. I'm not trying to be on like a soapbox, but literally, man, you can't say too much to people. Like, people got well, what is normal? Like, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure we can agree to some things that are.
I think TikTok likes to capitalize on the little videos of people's fails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The bride and the groom are getting married, and that bride is going to fall in that water right now.
Yeah, for real. I mean, we had it back in the day too. I mean, like, before TikTok, before YouTube, what do we have? We had America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things back then. That was, on ABC or whatever, at night on, I think it was like Friday nights, like one of the biggest nights. And it came on and it had, goofy videos, people doing funny things or whatever. And then you had, other videos like, World's Wildest Animal Attacks. Remember all that stuff back in the days come on the TV?
Oh,
That's what we had before you were watching, YouTube videos. You can see that stuff consistently. But like you said, you're going to watch the goofy video of the cat, trying to open the can opener or whatever. You're going to watch the goofy video of the kids running down the slide. But then you're also going to watch the videos of the pretty girls that's, making a sandwich with a bikini on, and then you're going to watch the talented singer that's singing a song or making a song out of like schoolwork, and it's incredible, man. It really is a platform to kind of, like you just said, here's a couple of minutes, have your 5 seconds of fame or whatever, and then bam. And do it as many times as you want. And people are getting famous off of it, bro. That's what's the incredible nature of the entertainment industry at this point. You can get famous sitting in your living room, making a video, dancing.
Andy Warhol was right. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes.
Damn. You know, notice I never heard that quote before. Is that what he said?
Oh, yes.
Definitely was right. Completely right. It's crazy, man.
So when you're not editing or getting into the TikTok zone,
I'm gonna do it in a minute.
Are there any shows or podcasts that you like to check out?
Yeah, man. I do have a couple of people that I watch. Some people that I've shows that I've been on. I got a friend called. His name is Warren Marlowe. He's a wrestler. He's been on my show a bunch of times. We talk wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan. I love WWE. Have been my whole life. Like I'm a huge wrestling fan. You like UFC. I'm big into stuff like that. I'm not so much into football and basketball. I like watching football and stuff. But I'm more of a movie person, man. As you can see, what the guests can't see, but the wall, I'm big on superheroes. Cobra Kai. I love Cobra Kai. Netflix has the greatest variety of shows right now to me, man. I don't know what's going on, but Netflix shows be hitting the mark. But I like stuff like that, man. I like movies. I like things like that. Podcasts. I've been listening to the Joe Rogan podcast since I don't even know, for as long as I can remember. I'm a giant stand-up comedy fan. Just a bunch of stuff like that. That's really my my premise of my entertainment love for the most part.
Okay. And as you know, we have a portion of the show in it. It's called Shameless Self-Promotion.
Shameless self-promotion.
And this is where you can let everybody know where they can follow you and see what's going on with your show and on social media.
Definitely. Well, guys, if you guys like what you hear, you want to get with your boy Brian B, listen, y'all can follow me on pretty much all the platforms. I'm available. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Instagram and Facebook are probably going to be the biggest. You can do Brian _B_B_line. I know it's a lot, but it's kind of easy when you hear it. Brian _B_B_line.
I'll put it on the show notes. Don't worry.
Okay, perfect. I know it's hard, a little mouthful, but
Instagram and their underscores.
Yeah, man, it's like they make you set you up for it. But I'm there. Mostly I'm gonna be there and posting clips of my show, and we do a couple of shows just for Facebook every now and then. Do a Beeline Shorts, and I'm platforms are on YouTube. My shows, the Beeline Web Show, is Tuesday nights 9 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. We do about an hour every night on YouTube. I'll post it and I'll post clips with it. I usually do small commercials. And the entertainment show, that's the big show. That's the one where everybody comes on and shows off. That's the big thing. Like I stated, they come on and they sing a little bit, or maybe they're promoting an album or a movie, or I actually have some really, really, really interesting guests coming on here quite soon, the next couple of weeks. So please feel free. Please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build our subscribers. We're currently on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and please, I hope I'm entertaining you guys. It's fun. I love this. Even if I'm not entertaining, I'm be honest. Even if I'm not entertaining, I love what I'm doing right now, and that's what I feel is the most important, man. I love what I'm doing right now.
There you have it. That's Brian B of the Beeline Show, and if you're catching the show on YouTube, post a little nice compliment on how nicely the show is edited.
No hiccups.
That's right. Brian, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jim. It's been great.
Let's get back to the Sherpa. Sorry about that.
What can I say? 10 seasons in, you think I could find some classy music to play for these things? Nope. Not gonna happen, folks. You know that it is time for Sherpa Samples, which is when I get to check out episodes of all the podcasts that are out there, and I give you a little bit of information on them. Sometimes you see titles and you don't really know what the show is about. Sometimes you can figure it out. Sometimes you can't. But that's my job. I've been checking it out because that's why I'm the podcast Sherpa. And I've got 10 podcasts that maybe you might be interested in checking out. If you've got a podcast that you'd like me to check out and I haven't yet, please let me know. Message me on social media at Sherpalution on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And if your show is chosen, I get to say your name on the air, and hopefully I will pronounce it right, because I can't even pronounce my own name right sometimes. Sherpa? What is that? I don't know. So, what did we listen to? So we listened to The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and it is a panel discussion about, of course, all things science. And I know I did a Sherpa Samples a while back on science shows, and I said there's really different types of levels of these scientific podcasts. This is kind of like medium high. It was enjoyable. They covered a lot of different topics, relatively easy to follow, easy to understand, so it's definitely worth a listen. Also, podcasts from across the pond, as they say. In Our Time is a BBC podcast about different events in history. And the episode that I checked out was an episode about the Knights Templar. And there's some really fascinating stuff going on. Again, a very serious panel discussion. Not really lighthearted, but very fact-filled. So if you like your history kind of on the serious side, and with a little bit of a British flavor, you can check out In Our Times. Also from the BBC, More or Less, Behind the Statistics. And this was hosted by Tim Harford. And it's about how they use numbers to relate to events that are going on today or in the past. Tim Harford has some interesting podcasts, and he certainly does an admirable job on this podcast, if you'd like to check that out. And the other British podcast that I listen to is The Rest is Politics. And there are two gentlemen speaking there about the events of the day. I believe they're from different political parties, and there's no yelling or screaming. It's just a simple civil discussion. Yes, it can be done, rebels. And if you need an example, check out The Rest is Politics. I also listened to Culpable, which had to do with the murder of a woman named Brittany Stykes. And it's a true crime podcast, if you like your true crime podcasts. The Psychology of Your 20s, which I think pretty much speaks for itself. If you're in your 20s and there are a lot of things that are going on in your life, this might be a podcast that you want to check out. I believe it's a Spotify exclusive. And another Spotify exclusive that I checked out was Case 63. And that is a scripted drama with Julianne Moore and Oscar Isaac. And she plays a psychiatrist who comes across a patient who states that he's from a future. And the reason why their lives get so intertwined really is an interesting plot. I listened to the first episode and I found out what happens at the end. Ooh, I wonder what happens in the middle. That's all I got to say. It's a really interesting, twisty kind of podcast. Definitely worth listening to if you like your serialized dramas in the form of podcast. Back to the Beach was a podcast with Kristen Cavalieri and Steven, who I think were dating. And it's a podcast that looks back at the MTV reality show, quote unquote, Laguna Beach. And they're looking back on their remembrances. And I believe they had a guest on that show. I'm trying to remember who she was. But someone else was on the show. I never watched the show, so I don't know. So these were all beach people. Who was that one? Oh, that was The Hills. That's right, the guy with the creepy mustache. Never mind. Spencer, I think his name was? I don't know. Creepy. But this one, they're talking about Laguna Beach, and they're catching up with old friends in the podcast as well. Nothing much happens. I guess a bedtime podcast, but it's for sleep and meditation purposes. So the host of the show has a very soothing voice, and she speaks very soft and slow. And I think if you're having a hard time sleeping, that's the point of this podcast. You hear little unwinding, relaxing stories like that, and it just helps you unwind. Nothing wrong with that. I believe the host also does a meditation podcast as well. No big surprise there, folks, if you listen to this podcast. Just a word of advice. If you are listening to this podcast, maybe not while you're driving. Maybe when you're home and relaxing and you just want to kick back. That's a better time to listen to this podcast. But otherwise, very enjoyable. And lastly, I listened to one. I don't know. I don't really like giving my opinions on podcasts. I kind of had issues with this one. Sometimes I do that. I know what happens. If Books Could Kill. And it's just two guys basically criticizing books from airport bookstores. There you have it. Wow. One of the guys used to be on maintenance phase, and he wasn't funny on maintenance phase, and he's not funny on this podcast. Gotta love the consistency. They ripped apart a Stephen Dubner book called Freakonomics. I enjoy the podcast. I enjoy Stephen Dubner as an interviewer. I think he's really good. What they've got against them, whatever. I don't care. It's a book from 2005, so they've obviously got nothing better to do. There. Was I mean enough? I don't care. That's my opinion. And I don't really let it leak out too many times when I'm doing these samples. But I don't know. It just kind of bothered me that they were criticizing him. Okay, I feel better now. I've gotten that out of my system. So now that I feel better and I feel happy, we can head into the outro. A very special thanks to Brian for coming on down to the Sherpa Chalet, even though his show isn't a podcast anymore. It's a web show, but you want to check it out on YouTube, and you will definitely be entertained. And if you were entertained listening to this interview, if you could do me a little favor and head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave this show a nice review, let everybody know how much fun this show is and help spread the word of the Sherpalution. You can hear this show on any podcast app and our website, Sherpalution.com, where we've been doing some affiliate marketing. You can do a little shopping on Amazon or Southwest Airlines or Paramount Plus. Really cool stuff. Check it out. I can make a commission if you do, but I won't ask you for money. Don't worry, we won't do that. Next week, we will be heading over to the Sherpa Screening Room, and we will be speaking to a guy named Jason Varso, who's done a lot of different kind of work in the entertainment field, and he will be talking to us about that. It's his first podcast interview, and I got it. I'm the one who nailed that interview. And he is my guest next week. Make sure you check it out. We're here every Wednesday with new episodes. And you probably already know that if you've hit the play button. So thank you so much for doing that. And until next time, Rebels, I say, Viva la Sherpalution!
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Yeah, I'll come back now, you hear?